a lot of people in Barry that wanted to have a word. And it was great, absolutely fantastic. And can I say a huge thank you to Geraint for his work, and make sure he's re-elected. To Christina, our Shadow Secretary of State for Wales, who is an incredible voice for Wales around the Shadow Cabinet table. To Mark Braithwaite for his work, for his friendship, his help and his cooperation. And to Carolyn for all that she does in Parliament, and also the work she does in her constituency. And I was so pleased to come and work with her at the Holiday 100 scheme we had in the summer. Because our party and our election are really one and the same thing. A party that's rooted in the community, strong in the community, and working for those communities. This manifesto is not just the product of very smart people in my office, the Labour Party head office, and many other places that wrote it. It's the product of the hopes and inspiration of thousands of people all over the country, from their daily experience as carers, as nurses, as doctors, as teachers, as factory workers, as street cleaners, people doing all kinds of jobs. Their hopes, their aspirations for the kind of society they want to live in are all bound up in this document. So when you're door knocking and when you're campaigning, it is for all of them, it is for all that we can and will create in a society, but it's also about the Labour culture of supporting each other, the Labour culture of solidarity, and the link of music and art with socialist ideas and the kind of society that we will create. One of my favourite poets, Dylan Thomas. It's an absolute pleasure to be here in Swansea today. A place that's given so much to the entire world and will give so much more. I just heard what Mark was saying and what Geraint and others have been saying about the climate emergency that we face and how we address that. Yes, it's happening. Yes, it's real. Yes, it's here. You could run away and say, that's horrific, that's terrible, there's nothing we can do about it. Or you can say, actually, we have to do something about it, we have to be involved, and we have to face it strongly, but with determination of how we can improve people's lives. And so, I moved a motion in Parliament in Westminster on May the 1st, that the British Parliament be the first in the world to declare a climate emergency, and it was carried. Mainly because Michael Gove spoke on behalf of the government, and he spoke at enormous length, he may still be going on now for all that. And two things that were apparent from his speech. One is, he doesn't like me one little bit. It's all right, it's all right. It's all right, it's all right. They don't call me Marmite for nothing. And he didn't have any arguments against what we were saying. So, our government will introduce the Green Industrial Revolution concept. About sustainable energy jobs. It will be very important projects like the Swansea Bay Lagoon, which will help to provide jobs, investment and hope for the future. And all the technology that will spin off from that about a sustainable environment, retrofitting homes so we use less energy, also protection of our natural world and improvement of our biodiversity. Because you cannot go on watching species be extinct, forests being burnt in Latin America or West Africa, and we don't all pay the price. And so, the Paris Climate Change Accord of 2015 was an enormous step forward. I was there for some of it. It was fascinating listening to him and taking part in those discussions, but it doesn't go far enough. And therefore, next year, when the COP26, the Climate Conference 26, comes to Britain, I want a Labour government to be hosting that. I want a Labour government to be hosting that on the world stage. To go further and faster than Paris envisaged. Because at the current rate, we won't meet zero emissions targets till 2099. That's too late, and we've got to do something a lot sooner. And so our manifesto sets out, and I'm determined to do everything we can, and if possible to achieve that by 2030. But it is about investment, and that is what a Labour government is prepared to do. But it's also recognising that we have to support industry as a whole, and there has to be a trading relationship with Europe. If Boris Johnson has his way, and we walk away with no deal with the European Union, and he walks straight into the arms of Donald Trump, what you've seen about the NHS is as nothing compared to the type of trade deal he would do with the United States, given half the chance. It's Labour that wants to protect jobs, protect industry, and ensure we have that effective trading relationship with Europe. Try and protect the steel industry and ensure that high-quality, sustainable industrial development all across Wales. That's what you get with a Labour government, a serious approach to jobs, communities and provision of services for everybody. But the Welsh Labour government has been grotesquely underfunded by the Westminster government. Imagine how much better it would be with a Labour government in Westminster working with a Labour government in Cardiff. That will improve those jobs and conditions. But it's also about righting the wrongs of the past. Righting the wrongs of the past, those that suffered grievous industrial injuries and conditions from the mines, the steelworks and so many other places. And the nastiness of the universal credit system that drives so many people into debt and into poverty and into desperation. So there's a number of historical wrongs that we intend to right in relation to the mine workers' pension scheme and in relation to the waspy women who've been so grievously treated by this government. Those proud women that worked hard all their lives to bring up their families, to work in different jobs, in different services and different industries, were shortchanged by this government. Well, we're going to change that. We will turn that around and they will get what they are due to have. When I get questions from the media saying, well, how can you possibly afford that? I'm sorry, there was an act of deception on them in 2011. It's a moral duty that this country pays that contract to them, and we will do exactly that. And that moral debt will be repaid in full. Our manifesto is about injustice and inequality in Britain. Last night I had I was going to say pleasure, but let's say experience, of a debate with the Prime Minister on these matters. He tells us, sorry, I hope you're not booing me. He says the economy's doing well. He says the economy's doing fine. Well, if it is doing so well, how come 4 million of our children across the UK are living in poverty? How come 130,000 children will go to sleep on Christmas Eve, wake up on Christmas Day, not knowing their home is a certainty in their lives? How come there's thousands all over the UK sleeping rough on our streets? How come there's so much inequality and injustice? Because we've gone so far backwards as a country ever since Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister that we've forgotten what it is. We've forgotten what it is to have a properly funded system of public services. So we have to invest for the future. And if every last word of this manifesto carried out brings us actually to the level of public services they have in France or Germany. That's how far behind we've got. And so, we fight this election to win it. We fight this election to right the injustices of the past as well. And I go back to what I was saying about the benefit system. Ian Duncan Smith developed universal credit. I was very proud to go to his constituency, Chingford and Woodford Green, and stand up there on a park bench in the middle of the town and say, we, the Labour Party, will end universal credit. And bring in a system of real social security, where there is a safety net to prevent people falling into destitution. None of this poverty is necessary. But it's also about income levels. If the economy is doing so well, why do so many people in work have to access a food bank in order to put food on their table? Why are there 1 million people across the UK on 0 hours contracts? Why is there this grotesque level of in-work poverty? And when the UN themselves, the United Nations, did an investigation into poverty in Britain, just think about that for a minute. The United Nations does an investigation into poverty in Britain.
Shocking. We
are the 5th richest country in the world. And I read the report very, very carefully. And they went all around the UK. They met people in food banks. They went to benefit offices. They went to job centres. They went all around. And they concluded at the end of it that the consensus under which this country had operated, that you have a welfare state worthy of the name, had been replaced by a cold and uncaring ethos that allowed people to drift into deep poverty. And he had warm words to say about the Welsh Labour government and what it had tried to do to mitigate the effects of that. But we have to go much, much further. And so it is about a real living wage in Britain, not what it is at the moment, a real living wage of £10 an hour for all workers, including young workers, who are so badly treated. So that will help a lot to change things. But it's also about our most precious national asset, the National Health Service. The National Health Service, the product of Tredegar, the product of Aneurin Bevan, the product of that historic Labour government of 1945. The principle of health care free at the point of use for all time. Boris Johnson last night seemed quite annoyed when I reminded him that it was the Conservative Party that voted against it on 41 occasions in Parliament. I don't blame him personally because he wasn't born at the time, but I do blame him for not knowing the history of his own party. He was, after all, very well educated. He should know this better. And our NHS is at risk. It's underfunded, that's very clear. There are record problems of waiting times across England particularly. There are also problems of its future. And so, when the British government engaged in secret talks with the United States on a potential trade deal with the United States, these talks have gone on for 2 years. We asked for the documents, and you remember in the first leaders' debate, I produced the documents. Every single line, every single page, redacted, redacted, redacted. Not one word was published. But we did get a very short version of the American Department of Trade side of things, which said that they were talking about access to services, they were talking about the UK health market, they were talking about access of American companies to it. Then, a bit later, I produced the entire documentation of all the talks that have gone on for the past 2 years. And what's on the table? 1, extending the patent life of American medicines so that the high price of patented medicines would be forced on the British healthcare system, i.e. our National Health Service, that they would demand access to the health market in Britain. It's not a market, it's a National Health Service. Big difference. And access to our public services. And then, a week later, they claim that somebody else wrote these documents. Well, it seems a very strange turn of events. That first of all, you get a refusal to publish the documents, so they get the redacted version, which did confirm all the meetings had taken place. Then you get the American version, which shows they did take place. Then you get the version that was given to me, which I produced for the public interest, which suddenly, this morning, is apparently an invention by somebody else. Well, I tell you what, it's in their imagination. They are up to their dirty tricks with our NHS, our services, our lives, and our market in the future. No Labour government will ever sell our National Health Service. It is simply not for sale. Not now. And so, we go into the last 5 days of this election campaign. This election campaign that's mobilised thousands and thousands of Labour Party supporters all over the country. Brought an unprecedented torrent, avalanche of abuse against leading Labour figures from many of our national newspapers. I tell you what, they bring out all this personal abuse. They do all that because that's what they know and that's what they trade in. I simply say this: they go low, we go high. They go into the gutter, we go to the sky, because we've got a different message of a different society and a different country that we want to create. Get to polling day next Thursday. Your efforts must be rewarded. But please remember this: there are many people who don't make up their mind until the very last minute. So however tired, cold and wet you're getting, and I know that's the truth, just go out there until the very last minute. Knock up till 10 o'clock to get those supporters to come along and vote for our wonderful candidates. Because if we slow up, if we give up, walk away, what do you get? More of a Tory government, more austerity, more poverty and more inequality. Since they chose to go down the road of austerity in 2010, the number of billionaires in Britain has grown to 150. But some of them are clearly very mean and ungrateful people, because only 50 of them have donated to the Conservative Party. I don't know what's wrong with the other 100. Not right. And you get a government funded by billionaires for billionaires. You get a government that is a stranger to the truth on so many issues. Or you elect a Labour government, a Labour Party, where the average donation is £25 to our election fund, where the average donation comes from people who are giving what they can. I tell you what, I'm more proud of £25 donations than any money. Deliver for all of the people of this country, but particularly for the young people, to create that country fit for the next generation. And so the combination of austerity, of underfunding, the combination combination of the stress levels mean that the life chances of so many young people are damaged by the poverty in which they're born in the first place. We can no longer go on with this level of inequality. I want to lead a Labour government that will take us on a better, different path. A Labour government that on the world stage will speak up for environmental sustainability, human rights, peace and justice all around the world. And it's now, in these last 5 days, it's totally in our hands. Please go out there and do everything you can, not just to talk to people, but to listen to people. This manifesto came about from us listening to an awful lot of people about the kind of world they want to live in. It's been fully costed and very carefully written. We're the only party to produce a detailed, fully costed manifesto. And we will judge ourselves, be judged by the effect we have on reducing poverty and inequality, environmental sustainability, and improving the life chances of those whose life chances have been so damaged by 10 years of austerity, 10 years of Tory and Liberal Democrat government. And so, do everything you can. And on Thursday, we work very hard. And on Friday, when we win for the people.